Do you want to live more sustainably but aren't sure where to start or how it fits in with your everyday living? The ReNewy Living Podcast simplifies sustainability so you can feel confident to take small, meaningful actions that fit into your lifestyle. Based on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people in Newcastle, Australia, you'll learn how to live lighter on our planet through practical ideas, stories from like-minded people, and examples of businesses doing great things. With an open heart and mind, join me, Marty Lee, as we explore how to consume less, build stronger community connections, and thrive in your neighbourhood, wherever you call home. Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Hello, I'm Marty Lee, and welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. When you hear the word decluttering, what comes to mind? For me, my brain jumps straight to the opposite of minimalism, with clean lines, empty shelves, and limited colour and texture. But actually, decluttering isn't really about that. It's not about having that perfect look. It's about letting go of what you don't need and making space for what truly matters. And something kind of magical happens when you do that. Decluttering is not about extreme minimalism. It's about feeling lighter, thinking clearer, and living easier. In this episode, I'd love you to meet Rachel Louise, creator of Raid My Wardrobe. Rachel brings a wealth of life experience into the art of intentional simplifying, where it's not about having less for the sake of it, but about shifting the focus from quantity to quality and building a healthier, more mindful relationship with the stuff in our lives. G'day, Rachel.
Hello, Marty.
It's so lovely to be in your house and in your space. Decluttering is really important to you, but how did you start?
Well, that's a question. I think it mainly started from my teaching background. I was someone that had to be organised. So I was teaching children how to be organised and how to keep clear, comfortable desk spaces and working spaces. And then once I had my children, I started to realise trying to juggle a business and being a mum, that there wasn't a lot of time and space to do the decluttering. And things would build up and areas in the home would build up and there'd be corners with junk in them. There'd be cupboards that would be overflowing. And I could see that I was not able to think clearly and operate clearly and then be present for my family. And during that transition was when I realised that I needed to change things up in my life. And the first place I started was my wardrobe. And I realised that there were lots of beautiful items in my wardrobe that I was no longer going to be wearing anymore now that I was a mum. And that led me on to creating the Raid My Wardrobe event. There was a space where beautiful quality clothing items could be resold to other women and we could share our beautiful resources with each other. I had always been a fan of donating to op shops, but I knew that there were women who were like me who were holding on to items in their wardrobe that would make them feel guilty if they weren't a certain size or weight, or would even remind them of past events that they might not always want to be reminded about. And I knew that this was a way of clearing that space and energy in their life and to bring in new. And I think that was really the part that started with me, was clearing out my own wardrobe, having that first Raid My Wardrobe event where I was running the event and selling my own clothes at the same time. And it just went from there. And I had another declutter once I had my daughter, like 3 years later. And then that's when I started the process of then helping other women declutter their wardrobes. But I would also look at other areas of the house and see what things in my life here in this home are not really serving me anymore. Gifts that people have given me, different heirlooms and different things. What are things that I'm holding on to out of obligation, out of guilt, out of fear? But these items actually are holding me back because they're not creating space for new things to come into my life.
Yeah, wow. That pathway that you've gone on is beautiful because it shows how you've started with yourself and that this was a problem for yourself and recognising that it was possibly a problem for other people as well.
Yes, 100%. And it was. And then that's why I had I didn't have intentions of the event going for this long. And it just has kept going.
Knowing that you've had a few events of the Raid My Wardrobe, what's the general feeling of the people who are selling their clothes at those events? How do people feel by the end of it?
I know for myself and for people that I've worked with when I've helped them declutter their wardrobes, there is this huge feeling of a weight being lifted, of this relief, of having permission to let go of the clothing that they once loved, but also having this good feeling, this like loving feeling in that they know that their clothing is going off to a good home and having a new life. And with the clothing that they didn't sell, it goes off to support charities. And a lot of those charities are then supporting other families and other people who are in crises with their programs. So there is this huge flow-on effect. And that's what I love about the decluttering of the resources in our home, because we actually have enough stuff in circulation and creation already. It's just working out ways in which it can be moved on to other people and shared with other people in resourceful ways, and then those people finding out about how they can get access to those resources.
There's so many elements that go into decluttering, and I can hear that perhaps the first starting point and the easiest one for people to start with is their wardrobe.
That can be. I suppose.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah. Are there others?
Are there others? What I usually say, and is to anyone, is to just pick a space that is, because sometimes your wardrobe can actually be too overwhelming for some people and that sort of thing, is to actually pick a space that is creating like a headache for you. Is that you might just have one drawer in your home that every time you open it, it doesn't shut properly. You can't fit all the things in it. That drawer is giving you a message. Please look at me. Please give me some attention. I need your presence here, owner.
Yeah. Look, I put a call out in the ReNewy Living community to say, what are your decluttering questions and what do you have? And that was one of those things, that random stuff drawer.
Yes. It's basically find the space and time, and you basically need to book it in. It's like, especially like these rainy days that we've been having, are perfect decluttering days. And you just get that drawer or that cupboard or that corner or whatever it is. Sometimes it might be the dining room table. Lots of people have what I call like hotspots or dumping grounds, where it's just you walk in and you just dump things. And sometimes you just need to look at that space. And I'd suggest looking at those hotspot spaces probably once a week. And you just get that drawer, get that space and empty it out. And I basically usually have 3 piles, and it's usually the things that you want to keep. Then there's the pile that's rubbish, and then there's a pile that's to donate or to rehome. In the keep pile, actually look at those items and go, do these items actually belong in this space? Or do they belong in other spaces in the home, and return them to where they need to go? But that's basically it. And then organise it back into that space.
I love how you've got the 3 pile ideas. That's perfect. And it's a very visual clue, isn't it? Like it's got the, keep, throw, and donate.
Yes.
Piles. But what about I don't know whether I need this pile? What about pile of hesitance.
Actually, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Especially that's when I do like the wardrobe. I do the yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, the maybe pile.
Yes, the maybe. The maybe is a tricky one. And that's the one that sort of ends up then being its own clutter pile or its own clutter in another box and that sort of thing. So sometimes, especially when I'm working with women and men, I've been working with men as well with their wardrobes, that maybe pile, it's sort of like, okay, let's just leave that. And you just continue decluttering and continue going, yes, no, what am I keeping, what am I not? Sometimes by the end of that process, you'll go back to look at the maybe pile and you'll actually have made a decision about some of those items in there already, and then they'll definitely be a no. But if they're still a maybe, then I suggest just packing them away. And then if in 6 months' time you haven't accessed them or needed them or gone looking for them, then that's where you need to question, do I actually really need this in my life?
I like that idea because it would be very easy when you're decluttering to get to that maybe and use that as the stoppage for I can't continue decluttering because I don't know what to do with this one. As you said, just put it in that pile and revisit it at the end so that you can continue that process of decluttering without having that maybe as a barrier.
Exactly, that's 100%. And like with wardrobes, it's not as if you do your whole wardrobe all at once. Like I know I've helped some people do their wardrobes and they have walk-in wardrobes. And me by myself doing it has sometimes taken me 5 hours. And I'm like a professional in knowing this and how to work with this and what questions to ask people and things with decluttering.
And you don't even have any of those emotional attachments to any of those clothes. They're not your clothes.
No, that's right. The process can become quite overwhelming. So that's why don't just start with your whole wardrobe. Start with one drawer. Even if that's your underwear and your sock drawer, there might be items in there that you really need to throw away and really go out and buy some new items. And that's one thing is because they're hidden, those items are hidden, we often forget about them and think, oh, we won't worry. But that's actually really where magic comes in. And I know for lots of people that I've worked with, once we declutter wardrobes or spaces and things, this energetic weight lifts off their shoulders. And some people have actually gone on to actually lose weight, as in physical weight off their body, just from decluttering their wardrobe, because it's like their emotional attachment to some items were actually holding them back from releasing things from their body and from their body actually being able to healthily flow as it's meant to.
Yeah, and that's a really good point about decluttering and also organising. So for me, when I get into the wardrobe, it's very easy for me to bring things in and also donate things as well because I'm a big op shopper. And the way I organise my wardrobe is in colours from dark to light. Now, I don't actually like going to op shops having clothes organised by colours. I prefer it by sizes. But in terms of my own wardrobe, I like seeing that because it really helps me see whether I'm wearing those particular colours for particular seasons, and it's much easier to donate those if I don't need them. I had put on a couple of kilos earlier this year. It doesn't sound much for some people, but for me it was a lot, and it meant that it was a great opportunity to go through the bottoms in my wardrobe, like my pants and my skirts, and look at them and go, yep, I am totally needing to move those on because it was making me feel a bit drudged, I think, I don't even know if that's a word, but yeah, a bit not great that I couldn't fit into those pants. And I didn't want to have them sitting in my wardrobe with the hope that one day I might.
Exactly. And I know I went through that recently as well, the same sort of thing, just those couple of kilos. And it's like, wow, I'm only wearing 10% of my wardrobe at the moment, not even the 20% that I would normally rotate through. And I was the same thing. I was carrying this feeling and thinking, I just need to go out and go do some op shopping, make a decision and go, these items aren't going to fit me anymore. let's just pack them away. Maybe they will one day. But there were some of them where I went, no, I can just buy new ones. And that's the beauty that's why, like, basically my 98% of my wardrobe is recycled. And that's what I love about op shopping and recycling and shopping at Raid My Wardrobe is that I have less emotional attachment to the amount of money that I have spent on certain items and things like that, and the guilt that I tie to those items.
Value is one of those things, isn't it? Because there's different elements of value. There's the monetary value, as you said, like if you've spent lots on an item, not just clothing, but anything else in the house. So monetary value, and then there's the perceived value, and there's the emotional value as well. So there's many different factors that why it can be a little bit hard for people to move things on because of all those elements of value. But do you find that you can be easily released from what the perceived value is if you declutter it and know that you can pass it on to someone else who will thoroughly enjoy it?
100%. And what I've noticed with my decluttering and organising business that I'm doing more of in the past 12 months is that once people know that I actually donate their unused items, and I have avenues and charities and op shops that I donate to, and I actually do that process for them, because sometimes what happens with, and I know that there's probably lots of listeners out there because I was the same, guilty as well, we have a bag or a box of items that we are meaning to donate to the op shop that either sits at the front door or sits in the boot of our car for months on end. And so that's what I help people in that process. So then they don't have to know that, oh my goodness, what do I need to do with these items that I need to donate? I do that for them with the process. And it gives them a sense of relief that then they actually declutter more, knowing that it's going to good causes, knowing that it's not going to end up in landfill. Because a lot of people, and I know myself as well, we don't want items to go to landfill that don't need to. And once people know that process, then they're happy and there's that relief. And that was the thing with the Raid My Wardrobe. Because people realised that they were going to have customers or other women that were going to realise the value of their clothing. And I know, because I love shopping from those higher end brands, that I know pairs of jeans that are worth $200-300. And when I can pay $50 for them, I'm like, wow, that's great value. And those women love that, knowing that they can get something back for the money that they've spent.
I remember my granny would love giving things to people for that exact reason. If it was to someone that she knew, or she knew that that person really loved and wanted it, that gave her so much joy. And I can see that happening as well. I give a lot of things away in my Buy Nothing group as part of my own declutter process. And there are some things that I do have that attachment of going, well, I did pay a lot of money for this one, but, what if I donate it to the op shop? I don't know if it's going to be sold like that. So there's those ethical dilemmas. But when I give it away for free and I know that that person really loves it and it fits them, then gosh, that feeling of happiness it makes me feel like I've done the best thing ever for that item.
Yes.
For me and for the person I'm gifting it to.
That's exactly right. So I was helping a lady declutter her shed and her storage space. And some of the boxes that we're getting to now are the family heirloom stuff. This
is the tricky stuff. I'm glad you've brought that up, because my goodness, that is hard. It continues.
It is hard. What I've noticed, so I start back with myself, is the more that I suppose I've gone through a lot of different transitions within my life, transitions with identity, with being, moving to being a mother and having children, and then being a solo parent and being on my own and having a relationship breakdown. And so during those different transitions and identity reevaluations, there's parts of me that have had to heal, and organising and moving and decluttering have helped heal those. And there'll be items where, you know what, I can't look at this box right now. But then in 6, 12 months' time, I'll come to that box and I've done different healing and things within that period of time. And I'll look at those things and go, I can let go of this stuff now. I don't need to hang on to this anymore. The family heirloom stuff is tricky. So once you start doing a lot more decluttering, it's like you become less attached to your items and things, and you only really keep those items that really bring you joy. And what I see it is that there's a lot of time and effort and creativity and design and resources that have gone into making some items. Like this lady had this beautiful Wedgwood china dinner set. And I said to her, look, I was the same. I have dinner sets as well from grandparents. But we need to honour these items, and we need to honour them by either reselling them in an antique store where someone is going to buy them and treasure them and love them as they are, or put them into our own daily use rather than being all packed up in the shed. And even if they only come out like every few months when we have guests that come over and we bring out the nice china, then start using these items. Start bringing out the nice china and the nice dinner sets and the crystal vases and glasses and things like that. Use these things. And you know what? If they break, then they're better than they've been used than sitting in a shed not being used.
Absolutely. Because we've got that problem now is I've got 3 generations back of dinner sets that my granny's parents immigrated from England all those years ago.
Yes.
They've brought that dinner set from the 19th century. It's like, hooly dooly, what do I do with it? And it is really hard. It takes up a lot of space. It is really hard to know what to do with it, because when I see those kind of things in op shops, they don't necessarily get purchased because they could have gold on them and people want things in the dishwasher. But I think honouring it as much as possible and using it on a daily basis is, as you said, way more valuable than sitting in a cupboard.
Exactly. And I just thought of something, what else had happened with this dinner set. So as I was unwrapping it in the storage, some of the plates had cracked. And so I said to the owner, I said, oh, look, we might have to dispose of these. And she said, oh, my mother actually has taken up mosaicing. So then those broken china dinner plates then she's going to gift to her mother. And then that's part of their family's history now, is then the dinner plates is going to be made into some mosaicing artwork.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I love that, in that personal item that was treasured by her great aunt is going to be reloved again in different ways and not be sitting packed up in a garage.
What about gifts? When we receive gifts, and as you said before, there's a bit of an feeling like there's an obligation, and there's a fear of, well, what happens if I move this gift on? It's not really what I need. What are your thoughts about gifts?
Yes, gifts can be a tricky one, especially if a person's love language is gifts, and then you receive a lot of gifts from certain people and different things, and that's the way that they give love to you. I know myself, it's receiving that love from that person in the gift that they've given, and then deciding, is that going to be a gift that I'm actually going to honour in the way that it needs to be honoured? Sometimes I will have it on display for a while, depending on what it is. Sometimes if it's clothing item, I will see if it's can be worked into my wardrobe. But if it's a couple of times that I've tried to work it in or tried to wear it and it hasn't worked, then I honourably and consciously go, you know what, this is going to be gifted to somebody else at an op shop, and they're going to use this and honour it and love it more than I am. If it's ornaments or different things or products and stuff, I suppose it's just deciding, am I going to use this product? Is there another friend or someone I know who I can re-gift it to? And then just making a decision to either keep it to honour that friend, but then is that actually honouring yourself, or harbouring those feelings of obligation and guilt? once we release those feelings, especially from our wardrobe, from unwanted gifts, if we've been through relationship breakups and breakdowns and we actually have items from our ex-partners and things, that can actually bring us down as well. And so that's why it's important to really move those gifts along, either re-give them to somebody else or pass them on to an op shop.
There's a couple of energies that seem to be needed when you're decluttering. There's a process of decluttering itself that requires one energy. And then the next energy is knowing where to pass on all of those items in the house. Now, there are lots of options. We've talked about donating to op shops, giving it away to others and selling, but why that becomes a second burdensome energy is because, especially if you're sustainably minded, is it becomes down to the ethics of, well, what happens if I donate it to an op shop and they just toss it in the bin or it doesn't get sold? Or if I need to sell it, how do I know where to start? Like, it becomes a new overwhelm, right? Like, how do I know where to start? Where am I going to sell this? How much am I going to sell it for? Woof. What are we going to do about that?
This is something that I have battled with for a long time, especially being an advocate of sustainability and not wanting to put things in landfill and knowing that there are reuses for lots of different items. That actually started to create an extra overwhelm on top of the decluttering and organising or whatever I was going through my life at the time, overwhelm. Then it sort of starts to tap into this sort of perfectionism type thing. And I know myself, I was caught up in that. And so then I would have lots of different things that I wouldn't move on because I was like, no, I need to research where online I can find where to donate all of these odd socks that I have, things like that. That started to become, like I said, an extra overwhelm. So then that's where someone like myself come in and help them because it can be too much. And that's why a lot of people can not declutter things or not do stuff. That's why I say start with this one thing. Even if it's once a week, just do one drawer or one spot or one area. Even if it's decluttering things on your phone, decluttering apps, decluttering old messages and things that you don't need, decluttering old photos. Like, we have so much stuff, it's decluttering everywhere. So for me, I had to actually let go of the guilt of knowing that some of my things would actually end up in landfill, and that was out of my control and there was nothing I could do. I suppose the thing is with the decluttering and passing on things is that I've made different contacts with different places. Like, I know there's the men's shed. So the men's shed can repair small items like those. And that's the thing. We have a lot of appliances these days that are actually engineered and it's in their design process to have faults to break in a certain amount of time. But there are still some people who can maybe repair these items. It's just knowing where to take them. I know the men's shed also accepts old tools and things. So sometimes I'm like, where do I donate old tools and things from? There's e-waste now where they refurbish different things. One of the things that I found hard to donate with clothing was clothing that is not good enough to sell in op shops anymore. This is what's really tricky, especially if it's got any type of stain on it that cannot come out through dry cleaning or anything. It can't really be sold in an op shop. That's where I've found Upcycle Newcastle, where things can be donated to them and they can repurpose them. And T-shirts, like old T-shirts and old things like that can be made up into yarn.
So just based on your experience, you've tapped into some really great organisations, particularly here in Newcastle, that can possibly upcycle, reuse. I mean, I also have an online shop as part of ReNewy Living, and it's really mindful curation about the things that I can sell on there. So even for people to donate to ReNewy Living for me to sell as a social enterprise is another good option for people. But I like how you're saying you've got to just release that guilt of if it's going to landfill In one way, it's much better for it to go in landfill in Australia because we've got excellent sanitation facilities and excellent ways of managing that landfill. So yes, it does bring up a lot of things about ethics of other big companies who say that they recycle but what happens to it. So it's okay now to just pop it in your garbage bin if it just becomes too much.
That's exactly right. That's what I believe. Like we as conscious beings are doing what we can. And there are items where I know cannot be resold, cannot be reused. Because that's the thing with myself. Sometimes I hold on to things and I like to they're nearly worn out. And so what I do is that I actually do a little gratitude process with them before I actually put them in the bin. And I actually hold that item. And I've taught this to my kids as well. I actually hold that item and I remember the times that I've used it and I thank it for what it has brought into my life, how it's supported me, and then I gently place it into the bin.
I've even taken photos of some things. So things like books from my childhood. Books can, over decades, they can get really mouldy and quite yucky. And it is something that brings back lots of memories, whether it's a great memory about learning to read or whether it's one that you've scribbled on as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. But yes, I like that gratitude. And then for me to take a photo, it's like, well, I don't need this book anymore. It's not serving me in my life now. It did when I was a child. And I just took a photo of it. And it's now in my collection of photos.
100%. That's a really beautiful way to honour things. And I know myself, like I, in my life, was into sports and quite competitive and got a lot of trophies and a lot of different things. And I know during the COVID years, I got a parcel box from my mum of stuff that she had decluttered from her house during the lockdowns. And I was like, all these different memories came back to me of the sports that I used to do. And then my children learnt about stuff about me when I was a child and a teenager and things that I had. Oh, wow, Mum. But I didn't need these trophies on display anymore. And there are actually some trophy shops that take old trophies, or you'll find sporting clubs that actually will take them and then all they do is just put a new plaque on them. So a lot of, like I had ones that were made out of marble and different things. They were, yes, like marble bases and things because we're talking back in the...
Wow.
No, I'm really showing my age.
I like these because I've never really been into sport and haven't ever received trophies. And if I did, it was one for participation and enthusiasm. So I've never had this trophy problem.
Yeah. So, and I know that there'd be other people. And so what I did in the process of doing is that I got all the plaques off my trophies and then I'm going to get some photos and just put them with the plaque and frame it and have that as the memento. And then I've donated the trophies and things.
Wonderful.
Yes.
As absolute declutter. And I was also wanting to say from earlier is that I'm in my 50s. We've lived in the same house for a very long time. So unlike you that has had to move around. But what happens there is it's very easy to accumulate stuff and get comfortable with it. But now we're finding that we just need to declutter our own stuff on a frequent basis. So being really alert and aware. But also I'm at an age where with our parents that there's the possibility of estate clearance as well. And oh my gosh, that's a different level, isn't it? And I can see why people bring out the skip bins. And I mean, it's hard to see when people throw everything in the skip bin, but you can see why you can't necessarily take every piece mindfully. So now would be the time to do it as much as you can and know that you are passing your items on with intention and love and thoughtfulness.
I've, in my life, been forced to move through different life circumstances. So I've been forced to declutter and sort and organise. In this space where I've been for a number of years, but I also think as well, when I have different boxes or different things that I've got in my storage and my shed, I think if I wasn't here right now, would I want to give this responsibility to my children to declutter and go through all of my things but I didn't find the time consciously to sort out myself. And so that's how I see it.
Thanks, Rachel, so much for your conversation today. If there was one or two or three, because I can never pick, but if there was, up to 3 things or 3 tips that you'd like to share with listeners from your insights, what would that be?
It would be to declutter on a regular basis and actually make it part of your daily and weekly habits. When you see those spots in your home that are piling up with things that need to be returned, then actually it's sort of part of having like self-respect and respect for your home as well. Then actually take the time and carve out the time on the weekend or after work or whenever it is to actually sit down and to sort that spot out. That would be my one thing, is to incorporate decluttering in your daily life. To let go of the guilt and to know that if you've honoured something and you've used it and it's not being used in your home and it needs to be used by somebody else and loved by somebody else in some way, then find the means and ways to donate it or to move it on or to share it with family and friends. And just to know that with decluttering, magic does come into your life. So as touching on what you introduced with at the start, Marty, is that we cannot have new opportunities, friendships, careers, things, adventures come into our life without letting go and moving on of space and creating space in our life. And decluttering is the first and easiest way to have that magic come into your life.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're welcome. It's been great to be here today. Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the ReNewy Living Podcast. I hope you're feeling more confident about taking a localised and actionable approach to living sustainably. If this episode has inspired you to take simple action, please follow the ReNewy Living Podcast so you can catch every episode. We'd love it if you could share this episode with your friends. It's a great way to spread the word and help more people join the conversation about living sustainably. You can even send me an email with the episode that really made it for you. Hearing your positive actions for change helps me understand how these stories work within our shared communities. Head over to my website, renewyliving.com.au, for the show notes and blog posts from this episode. I look forward to sharing more stories from the people of Newcastle as we delve into our community's diverse social and environmental practices for positive planetary change from a localised perspective.